welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host, and we are covering the abusive person and addiction. Previously, we had discussed how partner abuse and addiction are similar, and then in a later video we covered how they are different. And now we reach a new section from Lundy Bancroft's wonderful book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. The next section is interesting, something I had never thought of or considered or heard about, which is a question. He asks, if he stops drinking, will he stop abusing me? Now, Bancroft tells us that over the years, a large number of his clients have gone into recovery from addiction while they were participating in his program, sometimes because of pressure from Bancroft. No significant improvement has occurred as a result, except in those men who also worked seriously on their partner abuse issues. During the first several months of recovery, a man's harsh daily criticism and control sometimes soften a little, and any physical violence he was using may lessen or even cease, at least for a period, raising the hopes of the poor, battered, abused woman. She will interpret this respite as confirmation that the addiction did indeed cause that abusiveness, but his behavior toward her gradually or abruptly reverts back to being destructive as it was while he still was drinking. Ironically, the man's backslide tends to begin precisely as the recovery he's going through from the addiction starts to take solid hold. The early period of recovery is all-consuming. The compulsion to drink or take whatever drug is very intense. So the user fights a daily internal battle, many times hanging on by a tiny thread. He may be attending one or more substance abuse meetings each day, which occupy his time and maintain a focus. One result of this Herculean effort is that the man has little time, little energy, or mental space to devote to controlling or manipulating a partner. He's entirely self-focused and absorbed. But when he starts to come out of this, at the other end of this process, the energy and attention are redirected towards you, the partner, and his desire to bully her magically reemerges. It's not uncommon for abusive people to actually get worse when they are in recovery, because they may become irritable from not taking their substance of choice, and they'll take that out on family members. Other abusive people become more controlling when sober than they were when they were drunk, standing guard with eyes that are no longer clouded by liquor. Perhaps even more important is that an abusive person's recovery program tends itself to become a weapon to use against the partner. Once he stops drinking, for example, he may turn around and insist that she's the one with the drinking problem, even if she actually only drinks a little bit. He starts to criticize her for her being in denial about her own drinking, a concept he's learned at these meetings he goes to, and about which he's now considering himself an expert. Insulting comments about her drinking habits and pressure on her to give up alcohol and join AA are more than likely to follow. The abusive person also can use specific concepts from AA against the partner. For example, the AA encourages participants to review their own faults and misdeeds and make an inventory of them, and discourages criticizing or focusing on the shortcomings of others, which is known as taking someone else's inventory. The abusive person turns this concept against the partner so that any time she attempts to complain about his abusive behavior and how it affects her, he'll say,
"You should work on your own issues instead of taking my inventory."
Similarly, he uses the danger that he might drink again as an excuse to control the partner. For example, if he's bothered by something that she does, such as confront him about bullying, he'll say,
"You're getting me stressed, and you know I might drink if I get too stressed." And
the accusation is that you are threatening my sobriety becomes a new tool that the abusive person uses to hammer and silence the partner. Abusive people then develop new excuses for the abuse to make up for the fact that they no longer can say, "Oh, I was drunk, that's why I slapped you." The philosophy of 12-step programs includes elements that could be valuable to abusive people. Bancroft finds that his clients tend to ignore the principles that could actually help. For example, according to AA, the alcoholic has a responsibility to make amends for all the damage it's done to others while it was drinking. Abusers choose instead to take an almost opposite view, arguing that their partners should not raise grievances about past abuse.
Because that was when I was drinking liquor. I'm not like that anymore.
So she should let go of the past. They think of recovery from addiction as a gigantic, self-awarded amnesty program that should cause their partner's resentment and distrust to just vanish. Abusive people in recovery can be just as committed to blaming their behavior on liquor as they were when they were drinking. They choose to misinterpret the AA philosophy to mean that they were not responsible for their actions when they were drinking liquors, which is not what the AA proposes. And therefore, alcohol is a full and adequate explanation for all their cruelty and selfishness to which they have subjected their poor target to, or victim. Some of Bancroft's clients used their recovery to try to escape responsibility, saying that they couldn't help with the children, they couldn't get a job, or contribute in other ways because the program says, "I need to focus on myself." In this way, recovery can feed an abusive person's self-centeredness and excuse-making. A lady who hears the abusive person express these attitudes may find herself doubting that he's even changing, and her skepticism is well-advised. The partner may say,
"You have no faith in people,"
or,
"You don't believe that anybody can change,"
as if putting her down were the way to persuade her that he's no longer being abusive. But her instincts are correctly telling her that he is very much the same. Bancroft has had clients who made significant changes from a combination of recovery from alcoholism and working seriously on taking responsibility for their abusive behaviors. Only then does an abusive person's recovery from addiction become a significant step. The next part I was unaware of as well prior to reading Bancroft's book, which states that alcohol has no biological connection to abuse or to violence. Mr. Bancroft tells us that alcohol does not directly make people belligerent, aggressive, or violent. There is evidence that certain chemicals can cause violent behavior, anabolic steroids, for example, or crack cocaine, but alcohol is not among these. In the human body, alcohol is actually a depressant, a substance that rarely causes aggression. Marijuana, similarly, has no biological action connected to being abusive. Alcohol and other substances thus contribute to partner abuse in two ways. Number one, a man's belief about the effects of the substance will largely be borne out. If he believes that liquor can make him aggressive, it will, as research has shown. On the other hand, if he doesn't attribute violence-causing powers to substances, he's unlikely to become aggressive, even when severely intoxicated. Number two, alcohol provides an abusive person with an excuse to freely act on its desires. After a few drinks, he turns himself loose to be insulting or intimidating as he feels he wants to be, knowing that the next day he can always say, "Oh, I was drunk, sorry," or even claim to have completely forgotten about the whole incident. And his partner, family, or even a judge will let him off the hook. It's his fault. He didn't know. He was intoxicated. Bancroft puts in parentheses that courts tend to be especially lenient with abusers who blame their violence on a drinking problem, and the alcohol is an excuse that he accepts, so it isn't kept awake at night with gnawing guilt about having hurt the partner. Bancroft says he's had several physically violent clients admit that they made the decision to smash up their partners before they had any liquor in their systems. They went out, as a few of the men have put it, to grease the wheels, drinking for a couple of hours before coming home to start a vicious, evil, scary, terrifying fight. The alcohol arms the abuser with an excuse and helps him to overcome any shame or embarrassment that might hold him back. Beware of the man who believes that drugging or drinking makes him violent. If he thinks it will, well, guess what? He's going to be right.
I am the narcopath.
I know, too, that after I discarded you, things went through your head as they always do to all my targets. You wondered why you felt such a connection with me, and why you feel so devastated. Well, let me start off with the beginning. Remember the first date we had? To tell you the truth, personally, I was hot to trot. I wanted my Virginia licked and entered, although you let me kiss you. But I noticed you were a little more conservative. You had said specifically that you do not penetrate Virginia on a first date. What did I do? I switched gears and I said, really? I don't let people enter my Virginia on the first date. Oh. Well, the truth is, you did not need to know any of that because I was working on you. So it worked. We kissed goodnight. And of course, I did my own thing until you called again. And then we finally did it. That made you think I shared a value system similar to yours, even though it was nothing of the sort. So if I told you other stories about my past, they would always incorporate that, well, we met one night and kissed, and then it was a few more dates until we made love, because I wanted to remain consistent. And it worked for a while now, didn't it? You thought you found your soulmate. You have no idea how many people's soulmates I am, of all different kinds.
Eventually, we started talking about our past, and it slipped out a few times that I had participated in group sex with at least 10 different guys, that I had threesomes all the time, and I loved to have 2 men's parts in my pussy willow.
And then, of course, all this while I was trying to convince you that I wanted to be with you, and you forever only. Of course, you started asking questions. Well, what if you have a desire to have 10 people again? And what if you want to have 2 private parts inside you and all that? And I just told you, oh, well, I'm not interested in doing that anymore. There comes a time where you don't want to do those things anymore. And you had the nerve to liken it to a game of Candy Crush Saga, saying that that's like going to level 10 and 20 and 30, and then deciding you want to go back to level 1 and play that forever. I had no response to that, so that's one that I use on other people. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Regardless, you tried to use some kind of logic and say that if I did those kinds of things before, then it's only a matter of time before I want to do them again. And I just told you, honey, you're wrong. I'm in love with you. And you kept at it.
That was annoying to me. The fact is, I know. I love to have 10 people at a time. I love all that stuff. 2 clocks in my Virginia, all of it.
That's a different compartment than you. You were in your own special compartment where it's just the 2 of us forever.
I had the other stuff covered. I just wouldn't include you in them. I needed you to take me in full time, and then I would conveniently have to go out of town and you couldn't come, or I'd have to do something unexpected and disappear for a few hours. Then I would take advantage of my 10 lovers, my threesomes, and my double penetration. You just didn't need to be a part of it, and how dare you think you know it all? Yes, I used to do those things, but I found Jesus, and I wanted to be with you. At least I tried to convince you of that. Because you see, remember, I'm a great liar, which means if I disappear for an afternoon because 10 guys want to service me, I would make up one of my usual tales and tell you, well, I had to go by the church and help out as a volunteer. I tried to call you and text you, but there was no reception at the church. And it would work, usually, until you started getting nosy and asking questions and spying on me. Ugh.
Well, good luck to you.
Ah!